Well, as the diplomacy continues, so does the fighting, as we've mentioned. At least 70 people were reportedly killed in Jabalia in northern Gaza. The Israeli army said it has completed the dismantling of Hamas's command structure in the northern Gaza Strip. Among those killed in southern Gaza is Hamza al-Dahdouh, an Al Jazeera journalist and cameraman who was reported to have been hit by an Israeli drone strike. Hamza had been working alongside his father, who is the Al Jazeera correspondent in Gaza. This is Wael pictured at his son's funeral, along with other members of his family. Dozens of journalists have been killed in Gaza since fighting began 3 months ago. For more on this, I'm joined now by Jodie Ginsberg from the Committee to Protect Journalists. Thanks very much for being with us. Do you have any more information about how this happened?
So what we believe is that Hamza was in a car with a freelance journalist and another member of Al Jazeera staff, and they were on the road between Khan Younis and Rafah when their car was hit by a drone strike. We understand that they were en route to an area designated humanitarian zone to report on bombings in that area when the car was hit.
And so far, it's been a deadly conflict to report on. I mean, there's obviously casualties amongst the people who live there, but also on journalists. Tell us about the way journalists are managing the risks there.
Well, as you say, it's been the deadliest conflict for journalists that the Committee to Protect Journalists has ever documented. And we've been doing this work for more than 3 decades. More than 75 journalists have been killed since October the 7th. It's extremely difficult to manage the risks. We need journalists, and it's really only Gazan journalists who are able to document this war, because international journalists have had very little access, almost impossible to get into Gaza. They're the only ones doing this work, and so they're traveling to places like hospitals, like refugee camps to report on the effects of the war, but those places themselves are also under attack. So there's nowhere really safe for journalists to operate.
And tell us about the reaction from Al Jazeera and whether there's going to be any kind of proper accountability as to what happened here.
So Al Jazeera have condemned this killing. They've accused the Israelis of deliberately targeting the journalists. We, as the Committee to Protect Journalists, continue to demand independent investigations into these deaths. We've seen a number of cases where journalists clearly wearing press insignia, where it was known that they were operating, have been killed, and it's really important that we see investigations and those responsible are held accountable. Journalists are civilians and must never be targeted in a war.
Jodie Ginsberg from the Committee to Protect Journalists, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.